Oh, I don't think. Yes, I think it's gone. I think it's gone. Oh, there it is. It was up. Oh well. Let's try again.
I've been waiting for it to be on the platform today. I anticipate the movement will find any number of excuses to keep moving forward. But which is why we need everybody in state of mind. So we will find any number of excuses to keep moving forward. Which is why we need. First of all, this is bad. Okay. I must have something wrong with the speaker system in my computer itself. So if that's your strategy, then what I would recommend is that you reach out to everybody and ask them to sign on as a co-sponsor, as a state committee, non-state committee, and what I have been part of. Okay. And then so that you show a groundswell of people interested in it. And then, because the way the platform is being done is that unless it is time critical, so like right now, if we were to have a meeting next week, a resolution blasting the Trump administration for all of these executive orders would be a timely, you have to wait to go to the platform. Because Medicare for All is a thing that's an ongoing long-term sort of thing. You and I have been working on this for 15 years now.
Welcome from my almost second bedroom here in the Saugon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley. Oh, goodness gracious. Part of these United States on this North American continent, Western Hemisphere, on this planet Earth, the only one we have third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. This is TKE Tonight, the Kennedy Effect Tonight for the 11th of February, 2025. Now, I am I am panic-stricken trying to get the program out to everywhere it belongs. We did start a little late, as I fully expected, because it's just who I am. At the very last minute, the new software that we are supposed to be using deleted the method by which I was supposed to be getting the video out to you. Literally, like, not even 5 full minutes before we were supposed to hit the air with you, the method by which I was supposed to send you the video of the program just all by itself. And I mean, I know that, I'm not completely dumb, that, computers don't do things by themselves. They do what you tell them to do. Well, this I gotta admit, basically happened by itself. I'm trying to wrap my head around what the heck just happened. But yeah, that's where we are. So we're back on the old method. Good thing about this brand new computer is that when things go pear-shaped, we can very quickly pivot. And it's a word I'm looking for. what is the word I'm looking for? Pivot and kind of fix things. One thing I will say, this baby is really something. I'll tell you what, this is a hell of a computer. It'd be nice if it would listen to me, but it's I mean, it's sharp and clean and clear and lovely, and it's really nice to have it. I have to thank, my darling wife for, saying okay to making this really big purchase. This stuff is not cheap, and she, for whatever reason, believes in me and believes in what we're doing. Oh, we did that already, and it's just it's really something. It's nice. It's really nice to be supported that way. It really, really is. So look, we'll try again on Thursday. So what was supposed to happen, without trying to bore the crap out of all of you too much, is that the streaming software that I'm using, I was supposed to use a different version of it that would allow me to get to a lot of other places that I don't currently get to. And it just, like I said, literally like 5 seconds, 5 seconds is an exaggeration, 5 minutes before I was supposed to come on with you, it stopped. It removed the link that was supposed to allow me to use it. And I don't know how to fix it. So I don't know. So it's all screwed up now. It's really screwed up. And I honestly don't know how to fix it. So I am going to, we're just going to go without it for a while, for at least until Thursday. I'll see if I can, get George to help me get everything fixed again, as usual. Doesn't it always seem to come down to George? Yeah, I screw it up and he fixes it. That's kind of what our relationship is about. It's not, I'm sure he's not happy about that, and I wouldn't be either. But yeah, it's just not a good thing. What can I say? It just isn't good. But we will try to plow through. We've only got about 45 minutes. It's a short one. And what can I say? It's a short one. And what can I say? Turn the sound off on there. So I'm monitoring YouTube. I'm trying to monitor and watch Facebook. So what I'd like to get into, first off, let me do a little bit of business here as I continue to try to play with this camera. That I think is probably a little better. Not that you need my fat body and shoulders that much anyway. But that said, let's try to get through the business end of the program here quickly. You are watching, I hope you're watching and listening to TKE tonight, the Kennedy Effect tonight, live with you for the 11th of February, 2025. We are live right now on the Facebook pages of Ghost Claw Productions, the TCP Media Group, Our Revolution Pennsylvania, Hot101.net, my own Facebook, Jeff Kennedy, my fancy name down there in the bottom left-hand corner. And of course, our home group Facebook page for all things that surround our program. That Other Side of Information. That's also the name of our YouTube channel. We are there right now. I'm actually looking at it, so you can watch us right there live right now. You can also see the tests. I think the test that George and Gilbert and I did this past Saturday is actually on the YouTube channel. It's not as funny as some of them usually are because it actually worked pretty well. But hey, so much for that. I mean, when 5 minutes, when it goes south on you, 5 minutes before the show's gonna, what can I say? That said, we are here. We are also we have shared the program to. I would like to tell you how many places we've shared it to, if my phone will cooperate with me and let me tell you such a thing, because I do not know that it will. I want to say we're in the 100 neighborhood, but I'm honestly not certain of that. I'm trying to tell you that right now because it's important, because the folks that allow us to be part of their Facebook are, you know, we appreciate it. We couldn't do it without you. I don't know why I'm not seeing posts, but oh my God, Facebook. One of these days, you'll actually do what you're supposed to do. It's remarkable, truly, truly remarkable. We shared to 108 places. How about that? I'm surprised that we didn't get stopped. That usually happens. We usually get stopped, as you are well aware. So we're anywhere that you might be on Facebook. Thank you. Honestly, thank you. We couldn't do it without you. Stay right where you are. Watch. Come on over to Ghost Claw, or our Facebook group, That Other Side of Information. I will see your comments and questions. We not only welcome your comments and questions, we invite them. We want your comments and questions. Phone line, yeah, I guess it's open. It's not going to work the way I wanted it to work or the way we tested it, but what else is new? Temporary setback, I'm sure. But we can take phone calls later in the program. We are live on 2 global internet radio stations, one of the first and the most recent. We got it covered from A to Z. Hot101.net, our name is our web address. Hot101.net. Go to our main website. You can listen there for free. You can listen on any type of device that can connect to the internet, but you don't need the website to listen. You can do the apps, Apple App Store, Google Play Store for Android devices, and the TuneIn Radio app for all other types of devices. Hot101.net. And of course, you can Bluetooth it to speakers and earbuds and headsets, and you can tell Alexa to play Hot101.net. GCPR, the radio station that I am humbled and not doing a hell of a good job of co-owning at the moment because I can't get things to work. GCPR, Ghost Club Productions Radio. Go to our website, www.gcpr.live, gcpr.live, and you can listen there for free. You can find out about all our shows and hosts and just become part of the GCPR family. How do you do 2 radio stations at the same time? There's a lot of hours in the week, folks. Sometimes you just need some music and you don't want the heavy topics of politics and thinking about all the terrible things that are going on in the country. And you just want to listen to some music. That's where Hot101.net comes in. And then when you want to get back in and engaged and have a conversation, make your phone calls, put your comments in, have a laugh, hear about the latest computer tech, movies, and all different kind of shows that we have here on GCPR. You come back to us, and we're here. Following us on Hot101.net, the music returns. On GCPR.live, Hurricane Girls is live from 9. Conversations with T. Nathan from 11. And Thomas returns tomorrow morning to try to start to get us halfway through this week here with the sound of coffee. I want to focus on one, I think, very interesting thing, or at least I kind of hope that it's interesting, or I hope you think it's interesting. Yesterday, And I'll tell you what, sometimes I have the attention span of a gnat. Like, I can get really derailed by a new news headline, by a new disaster, another school shooting, another plane crash, another mass missile drone bombing attack by the Russians into Ukraine. I can get easily distracted. I will freely and openly admit that. This one I hung on to for a day and a half or so. It was yesterday when I was in the office, this news alert popped up on my phone, and I was kind of shocked by it. And then one of the things I pride myself on is what I believe is a pretty good, strong ability to see both sides of things. Doesn't mean I agree with it, but at least try to analyze it from multiple sides, if not only two, at least multiple sides. And this particular story, I think, is the same thing. Trying to take it in from both sides. Now, I don't agree with a certain side, even a little bit, but I try to understand it. Now, the conclusions, generally speaking, that I come to are not the kind of conclusions that logic would dictate one would come to. It just isn't. Facts and history and science and data belie the arrival that roughly a third of the nation has come to. But I at least try to take it in and try to understand it as much as I can. There's a CBS News poll that came out yesterday that shows Trump's approval rating at 53%. Now, really, going back not too far in this country, if you were at 53%, you were in real trouble. Keeping fully in mind that if you put 10 Americans in a room, the number of things that you might get them to agree on are very few and far between. In the polarized climate that we're in now, it's you'd be pretty hard pressed to get 10 Americans to agree that the sky is blue and the grass is green. But 53% of those polled, and a poll, of course, if it's done the correct way, the people that are chosen to take part in the poll are supposed to be kind of a cross-section of the country, representative of the country. You would never poll 10 people. It's not enough of a sample. You try to get at least 1,000. The more people you can get, the better. But, if you had 10 people in a room, you would, and you tried to make it percentage, representative of the larger population, there would be a trans person in there. There would be an LGBTQ person in there. There would be 3 of the people would be of African American descent. 1 would be of Asian descent. 2 would be of Hispanic descent. Like, you would spread it out. You would try to make it representative of the country. CBS News is the institution, if you will, that conducted this poll. They know what they're doing. I tend to trust my experience in politics tells me this is a pretty good poll, that it's pretty solid. It, of course, has a margin of error. Um, if I remember correctly, and I'm not saying that I remember correctly, I think the margin of error was in the 4% range. Every poll has a margin of error. Better polls will have smaller margins of error, ones that are either hastily done or done without enough people. And I used to know the mathematical formula to calculate the margin of error. I don't any longer remember how to do that. I used to know. They actually taught us in school. There's a crazy concept. They actually taught us in school about polling. And I used to know how to calculate that, but I don't anymore. Polls that are done hastily, that are done without enough people taking part, will have larger margins of error. This one had a very reasonable margin of error. And it stated that 53% approve of the job that Trump is doing so far. Now, to the best of my recollection, and I did do some cursory research on this, it is the first time, the very first time in this Trumpian era, this decade now, that we've been subject to this, that we've been overwhelmed by it, that we've been drowned, beaten down by it. This just overwhelming Trumpiness, this Trump era, this time in our nation that has been so profoundly dominated by one person. A decade. And no, that's my headset. That's not supposed to be my headset. That, I think, is my mic. Try and turn up the gain on my mic a little bit. Because it would seem the mix is a little low. But it could be the new computer. But we that's what it shows, and we can't hide from that. That just is the truth of it. We can't hide from it. That it would appear that a majority of the country approves of what he's doing so far. Throughout this Trumpian era, he has never broken 50%. Not in any popularity poll, not in any approval rating poll, and certainly not in any election. He's never broken 50% until yesterday. Now, we've had this discussion on the program before. It's not a comfortable discussion. There is an element of radio where you must be repetitive. You have to keep saying the same things over and over again because you don't have the visual to back them up. So at the risk of having a conversation that we've had on this program before, throughout this Trump era, something else that we've discussed, not just here in the program, but discussed as a nation, is, or at least we've tried to convince ourselves, and I was part of it, and I just very well may have been wrong. I'm not completely convinced I'm wrong yet, but I might be. Is that we've asked ourselves, as we've seen this dramatic rise in hate speech and threats to life and limb of public servants, doxing people, stalking people, a rise in the militia movement, or the so-called militia movement, self-identified militia, certainly not legal. what is seemingly a new, although it's not new, wellspring of racism, scapegoating of the poor, this worship of wealth and money, the falsehood of the prosperity doctrine. What used to be a majority of the country would ask itself, is this really who we are? And then try to say no. It might just be time to say, yeah, it is. This is who we are. Do 53% of the people approve that we have given up on feeding people around the globe? That we've given up on trying to cure disease? That we've given up on trying to build bridges instead of bomb them and break them down? I mean, is this really who we are? I have to wonder. I mean, is it? Or maybe not. I don't know. But it would be I'd like to know. Let's put it that way. It'd be nice to know. And what this poll tells us is that, yeah, maybe this is exactly who we are. Do 53% of our friends and neighbors and family approve of trying to end the Department of Education? Do they approve of halting all federal payments to health clinics, senior centers, schools, Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, job training, student loans, just stopping to pay them? Musk, of course, said it's only for 3 months. How's that? Only for 3 months. Okay. Nice. Only 3 months. You know, if you have to pay a student loan 3 days, or if you need that student loan payment for your spring semester in your institution of higher learning, which many spring semesters started right when those payments were trying to be cut or halted, wink, wink, wink. You know, 3 months, your institution of higher learning is probably not letting you go to school because you didn't pay them. Student loans don't always directly go to the institution. Sometimes they go to the student's bank account, who then writes a check to the college or university. But of course, if we stop that, they can't pay. Does the college and university allow them into spring semester with the understanding that, oh yeah, the federal government just screwed you? I mean, do 53% of us really support all internal executive branch oversight to have been fired. I just had to educate and correct a high school friend on Facebook before we came on the air. You might have seen the post in the group stage. I'm thinking about football. In the group page. I'm all over the place tonight. This show can't end fast enough. This has not been a good night. Yeah, we're only human. I watch Thomas every morning, and sometimes I watch him say wrong stuff or, laugh a little too hard at his own joke or make a joke that just lands flat. And he just goes, we're human. What can I say? So am I. All too human. Trust me. But anyway, my point is, I had to educate someone I consider to be a dear friend. Because, look, I've told you on this program a million times, and Randall has done it probably a million times. If you think I'm grossly wrong about something, or you just think I'm wrong, and you do an internet search on it, and you prove that I'm wrong, you tell me, and you correct me. This I was not wrong about. Perhaps you saw the post where I just said, who fires all the inspectors general? And the people who, well, I'm butchering my own post. I should probably look at my own post. Maybe that would, well, no, I can't do that in the middle of this. I'm butchering my own post, but it was, who fires who fires the people who are supposed to look out, investigate, and prosecute corruption? The corrupt. Now, interestingly enough, I didn't mention anybody. I didn't name anybody in that post, but yet this friend jumps all over me and says, come on, you don't believe that. That's not fair. And Trump has fired all the inspectors general in the entire executive branch. Every executive branch department has had its inspector general fired, the exception of the FBI. And I suspect that person will be fired soon because the inspector general of the FBI is looking into the illegal firings of FBI investigators and agents and employees at behest of the Trump administration. So anytime that we look into anything, we of course have to fire the person who's looking into it. Today, Trump fired the head of the government ethics office. So we have all the inspectors general throughout the executive branch, except for one. And I think that person's on a short leash at this point. And we decapitated the government ethics office. We want to shut down the Consumer Financial Protection Board, which has returned more than, I think, 100 times its budget to the American people in wrong and money that was just stolen from them. So, of course, we need to shut them down. Foreign lobbyists no longer have to register. Foreign agents no longer have to register. Musk is supposedly looking for waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government. So who does he send into these executive departments? Computer programmers and coders, not accountants, not forensic accountants, not auditors, not even lawyers. Teen and 20-something computer hackers, many of which with a history of racism. Usually don't find fraud and abuse with a computer hacker. Usually do an accountant for that. But do 53% of us agree with that? Do 53% of us think that diversity, equity, and inclusion is a bad thing? and that it needs to be stomped out? Do 53% of us agree with that? Do 53% of us want to take the Panama Canal and Greenland potentially by force? Do 53% of us think that the American people, through their tax dollars and their military forces, should take control of the Gaza Strip, rebuild it with American tax money, and then turn it over to private developers for profit? Is that 53% of us agree with that? That's really? But I think we might just have to ask ourselves, or look in the mirror and say, yeah, this might just very well be who we are. That the hate in this country is either already so deep and was brought back to the surface, or the right-wing hate media machine helped foment all new sorts of hate, that this just might be who we are now. Now, I've also talked in the program about the Democratic response, that we need a full shadow government. The Democrats in Congress should simply try to block everything that this man tries and that Project 2025 tries to do. If Trump takes a breath, we should pretty much try to stop it. If he sneezes, we should try to make sure there's no tissues around. I think what this poll also says to me is that this response is probably no longer right versus left, Democratic versus Trump, because there's no Republicans left. They don't exist. Republican Party's dead now. Doesn't exist anymore. It's Trump. It's all Trump. It's a cult. It's all Trump. The power struggle that would ensue if he passed away tonight would be Shakespearean drama. And by the way, I do not wish for 1 second that he would pass away tonight. I'm better than that. Simply saying, if he did, the Shakespearean drama that would ensue would be staggering to watch. Cults usually die with the cult leader. I happen to think this one will too. Musk is not a cult leader. Trump's the cult leader. Musk owns the cult leader. But Musk himself is not the cult leader. His approval rating is in the low 30s. Somebody did a poll on him, and I can't remember who the heck did it now, and I apologize for that. I think his approval rating is only somewhere around 32%, and which is only, by the way, 32% higher than it should be. But I guess the greater point, all of this, is a question that we actually asked on this program after the election. is that throughout this Trump era, we've asked ourselves, is this who we are? We try to convince ourselves it's not who we are. This is not America. Well, maybe it is. Maybe it is. It just might be. 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. Following us on Hot 101, The Music Returns. Following us on GCPR, Hurricane Girls from 9, T. Nathan from 11. Thomas returns tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. with the sound of coffee. You are watching and listening to TKE Tonight, The Kennedy Effect Tonight on GCPR.live on Hot 101, on the Facebook pages of Ghost Claw Productions, Our Revolution Pennsylvania, the TCP Media Group, and Hot 101. And of course, my own personal Facebook and our home group Facebook page for all things that surround the program, That Other Side of Information. We are live on YouTube right now. Also, That Other Side of Information. We are live on Twitch. Just search for me, Jeff Kennedy. We are live on LinkedIn right now. Just search for me, Jeff Kennedy, and you'll find us. Lewis makes an interesting... Let me get that on the screen. I believe this hate that you speak of has been socially engineered by tools like Musk. I think it's a little bit of both, to be honest with you. I certainly don't discount your comment in any way, shape, or form. I don't know that I fully agree with it, which, by the way, you shouldn't lose a wink of sleep over whether I fully agree with you or not. I'm not that important. But I don't know that I fully agree with it, but I certainly don't disagree with it. Media machines, a lot of this, a lot of the surface. I think we're probably going to have to recognize just how much of this was under the surface. The third of the country that put Trump back in office knew everything about him. They know how hateful he is. They know how racist he is. They know how he worships only money, doesn't care a hell of a lot for his own family. Sure as hell doesn't care about the country. He likes to make money. He told us he would be the first man to make money on the presidency. He's made billions, tens of billions. They knew everything that he had promised in the first term and never delivered on. And it didn't stop him. They voted for him anyway. So I think a lot of that was probably under the surface. I still continue to believe that the biggest reason that people support this man is because he hates who they hate. The rich do it to separate us. The rich do it to separate us. As long as we're fighting each other, we can't fight them. But I think a lot of that hate was already there. He gave it license. Anyway, go ahead, Randall. We got about 10 minutes.
Yeah, there's been a lot of things in the chat here from the group Facebook page.
Yeah, like exclusively. Nobody else wants to talk to me tonight. Not that I blame you.
Anyway, you know, the last congressional, I don't know what you call it, cycle, where the Democrats still controlled the Senate before this past January. The SAFE Act was passed unanimously by the Republican slight majority in the House, sent to the Senate, and it was defeated in the Senate because at that time the Democrats still had one vote margin. And I published the news article that explained the SAFE Act totally. And it's interesting because for people out there that don't understand what the SAFE Act is, it says essentially that you have to have, number one, your birth certificate to prove that you are a U.S. citizen. Number two, you also have to have at least one separate identification, like a driver's license or something, that the name is the exact same thing as on the birth certificate. Now, approximately 26 million American women that are married in this country, their birth certificate name is different than they've legally changed their name to be married. And there's no way to reconcile that. The only alternative is if you have a passport, that's all you need. Okay, so my wife has a passport. My daughters, they're married, they have passports. I'm not worried about that. I'm just worried about the 26 million American women that don't have, that have a passport, that have a birth certificate that says, this is my name, my maiden name, and then they have this that says, this is my married name, and it doesn't reconcile, and they're going to be denied the right to vote. And I just see this as part of the whole evangelistic program to take us to the Handmaid's Tale in this country. To deny women any rights. Now, and the funny thing is, the majority of married women that use their married name versus their maiden name still are in the red states. They're voting for Trump.
Well, what is that? And what's another thing that we've said on this program way too many times? Sometimes, not all the time, sometimes you get exactly the government you voted for. Sometimes you get exactly the government you deserve. Now, Trump won married white women. He won college-educated women. And by a pretty good margin. So when they can't vote, when this begins to affect them, when they are turned away from the polls, maybe then they'll wake up, but then it might be too late by then, because they're not getting their vote back unless Democrats take back, well, all of government, really, because even if they take back Congress, they're not going to be able to they won't get anything past Trump. But it's interesting a way that you phrased something. I'm going to end up changing the subject on you, but it's not my intention actually. But you mentioned the last election cycle that we had. It just might be. It just might be the last election cycle. I happen to think that we will have a congressional election cycle in 2026. But I also, with things like the SAFE Act, the continued voter purges that are going on in Texas and Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, really the old Confederacy, the various state Supreme Courts that have been backed up by the U.S. Supreme Corporation, that you can gerrymander districts entirely based on race, and that's perfectly okay. Even if you are disenfranchising Americans, that's all right. You can make all white districts and heavily skew your congressional delegation. We may have an election cycle, but you got to kind of wonder how fair and open it might be. And not to mention, by the way, Trump has a private army now. So how many of those strapping young men dressed up in army fatigues, self-appointed militia, especially in the countries where you can open carry AR-15s, how many of them will be at every polling place throughout the country asking people with skin darker than theirs, show me your papers. But 53% approval rating so far. So is this who we are? Yeah, it just might be.
You know, when Trump just, here we go. He's just joking. When he said, off the cuff, hey, let me be reelected. And I just had to go back, and I watched it twice today. So that brings up to number 12 times I've watched the movie, the 2024 movie Civil War.
Yeah.
And that was the whole point. That was the major point of the revolt by the Western forces. The president was serving the third term. And it just hit me even more of how close we are to the scenario of a total faction.
Well, he just talked about that again this week.
That's what I'm talking about.
I forget what the heck thing he was at. And there's also the House member from the Republican House member from, I believe, Florida, who introduced a constitutional amendment because the number of years that a president can serve is in the Constitution. Republicans did it to the Constitution after Roosevelt because they feared another president like him.
Right.
And then again, we haven't had one really since. So close occasionally, but not really. So he's put forth a constitutional amendment that would allow Trump to run for a third term, but would not allow any previous president that might still be alive to run for a third term. It would only be Trump and then going forward, because I suspect they would fear Barack Obama running for a third term because he is still quite young in the grand scheme of things.
Yep.
When things like that happen, that's no longer about governing. That's no longer policy. That's no longer an opinion about what's best for the country. That's bending the knee. That's kissing.
This is total history of what Putin did to the Russian Constitution, to the Russian government, turning it into a dictatorship of oligarchy. Mm-hmm. Exact same game plan that he did in Russia. Exact same game plan. And
and we've started the attacks on the media, right?
Well,
we have
the AP poll, newspaper poll representative was denied to be at that press conference. Yeah, exactly.
And we want to finish the defunding of NPR and PBS. The only good thing about that is that for NPR, I believe it's only about somewhere between 4 and 7% of their money comes from the federal government. PBS, it's as much as 15%. I do happen to believe that money could be made up. I think it could be made up by the foundations and so on that already support it, as well as you and I. Not just you and I, Randall, but you and I, the public, you and I, my audience, you and I, everybody contributing to PBS, your local PBS station especially. But yeah, we've had CBS bent the knee, paid a settlement for a court case that had no merit. ABC paid for a court case that had no merit. And now, of course, we're going to go after NPR and PBS. This is. We can look all these things up too, folks. The internet can be a really wonderful thing. The entire sum of human history and knowledge is right at your fingertips. If you really ever think that I'm that far off the wall and that I'm that far, no pun intended, out in left field, Just to Google, Safari, DuckDuckGo, whatever your search engine of choice is, and just look up the things that we're talking about on the program, and you'll find I'm not wrong. I'm just not wrong. History shows us all of this. You can look at Italy in the 20s, Germany in the 30s, Russia in the 90s and early 2000s, Hungary within the last 10 years. Look at the fall and decline of the Roman Empire. We've seen all of this before. We know what the end of the story is. And it's usually not very pretty. When's the last time you visited the Roman Empire? When's the last time you saw a European continent completely overrun by Germany? These things usually don't end well. Anyway, I got to sign off, my friend.
Yeah, I know.
I'll talk to you Thursday.
I'll see you.
All right. Have a good night.
God bless.
That's it for us. Hopefully, George and I will be able to get together and fix the new software. But even if we can't, we'll be here. We'll be right here, all the places that you have found us so far. That's about all the damage we can do for everybody at hot101.net, DJ Lex, DJ Earl, and the entire family at Hot 101, for everyone at GCPR. That's Thomas and Gilbert and George and everybody at GCPR, for everybody that surrounds the Kennedy Effect. That's Lynn and George and Kristen and Daisy and April Riddick. I'm Jeff Kennedy. We've done about all the damage we can do for one night. Our plan is to return to you on Thursday from 8 p.m. Following the music returns on Hot 101, and on GCPR, Hurricane Girls starts right now. See you, everybody. We'll see you Thursday.